Is your name Amy Beth Schumer?
Yes.
Have you ever stolen a joke?
Hey there, comedy fans. Today I want to ask a very important question. Why does everyone hate Amy Schumer? And more importantly, why does everyone love to hate so much?
Hate, 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 hate.
Now, you might be saying, Ashley, hate is a strong word, but I assure you, there is much hatred for Amy Schumer. Even if you just take a quick scroll through YouTube, you'll find titles like The Deserved Downfall of Amy Schumer, The Satisfying Downfall of Amy Schumer, I Suffered Through Amy Schumer's New Movie, Why is Amy Schumer so unfunny? Nobody likes Amy Schumer. And if you're still not convinced that a large portion of the population of people who consume comedy hate Amy Schumer, there's How Amy Schumer Became the Most Hated Human Ever. So why am I doing this video if the hatred for Amy Schumer has been so clearly established?
And you, the worst of the bunch.
Well, I'm certainly not going to defend her as a female comedian myself, because I actually agree with a lot of critics about her stand-up. In fact, I was bored through most of my reaction to her Netflix specials. But more on that later. I'm looking at the animosity toward Amy Schumer because at a certain point, you have to wonder, where is all this hatred coming from? And is it deserved? So why don't we look at this together? Starting with the claims about her horrid personality as a famous person. But before we do that, I noticed that 77% of my viewers are still not subscribed. So if you're enjoying this content, please consider subscribing and go ahead and hit that like button if you're enjoying this video. The first major complaint that's always cited is from an article from 2015. It says she was too famous to check in at the gym. She didn't want to show her key fob and wanted to be able to go in and not be questioned. Well, I don't know. Don't most famous people do that?
Classic, stupid, selfish, inconsiderate.
While Equinox believes Schumer eventually enjoyed her workout on Monday afternoon, our source said she was so unhappy she stormed off. I mean, is this really noteworthy or newsworthy? Anyway, and then we have this incident when she refused to take a photo with a fan. Apparently she was in Greenville, South Carolina, and some guy came up asking to take a photo. When she said no, he said, "It's America, and we paid for you."
Yes, stupid.
Then the guy comes back and does something on his own Instagram that says that's not exactly how it happened, and drama ensued. Do I fault Amy for not wanting to take a selfie with a fan? I don't know. I've never been famous, so I can't really speak to any of this, but a quick Google search comes up with plenty of celebrities who've also acted entitled in public. Now, these are AI results, so take it with a grain of salt. So is Amy Schumer the only celebrity who acted entitled, or who refused to take a picture because, well, that's her private life? No. Does it make the case against her worse? A little. I'm not gonna get into the whole hate the person but not the art debate, but I think it's safe to say that at this day and age, with all the social media and the lack of privacy, that old trope can be put to bed. Because if you look at some of the things she's criticized for, it's really not any worse than any other celebrity. Perhaps the biggest complaint against Amy Schumer in terms of being a celebrity and demanding celebrity rights is the fact that she claims she deserved just as much money as Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle for their Netflix specials. So here it says, Amy Schumer couldn't have been hotter as a personality when she set a deal last year to star in a comedy special for Netflix, The Leather Special. And don't worry, I will be going over some of my reaction to that. But when Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle made headlines for commanding eye-popping deals for $20 million per special, Schumer's team went back to Netflix and flatly asked for more money. She received significantly more compensation after she raised the question of fairness relative to the Rock and Chappelle deals. Okay, as a woman in the workforce, I honestly can understand this. And I found this other Variety article that says, I believe women deserve equal pay. However, I don't believe I deserve equal pay to Chris and Dave. They are legends and two of the greatest comics of all time. She continued by saying, I would like to say that I've been selling out arenas these last couple years, something a female comic has never done. Well, we'll see about that. I didn't ask for the same as my friends. I did ask for more than the initial offer. And this was written back in 2017. I'm not going to get into the whole debate about equal pay in America, but the latest numbers that I could find was from something posted on March 25th of last year. Women were paid 18% less on average than men in 2024. So, if this is happening in 2024, then you know that in 2015, 16, when all this was happening, that women were definitely not paid as much as men. So while this is a little bit of old news, suffice it to say that this day and age, women are still paid less than men, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman declaring that she deserves more money simply based on the fact that she's a woman and getting paid less. And that's just the reality of being a woman in the workforce. But let's go back to that thing she said about selling out arenas these last couple years, something a female comic has never done. Well, I couldn't find anything that states that she's the only one. However, I did find a few articles, including this National Post article that said, this was before she actually performed, it said, assuming her MSG show sells out, she'll become the very first woman to do so, while joining the small and mostly illustrious list of comedians who've accomplished the feat. Eddie Murphy, George Carlin, Andrew Dice Clay, Chris Rock, Russell Peters, Dane Cook, Kevin Hart, Louis C.K., and most recently, Aziz Ansari. So, Chris Rock is on this list. I don't know. I mean, do I think she's as funny as Chris Rock? No. Do I think that she deserves as much pay as Chris Rock? No, because as Amy said herself, he's a legend and one of the greatest comics of all time. But I do think Amy Schumer deserves to be paid as much as a male comedian of her same caliber and reputation. Who that is, I couldn't tell you. The other thing I found was this Forbes article says she became the first woman to ever make the highest paid comedian list, which is a list that Forbes put out. So, you know, she's making a lot of money. We can be sure of that. In any case, she's making enough and selling enough tickets to demand the price for a comedian who's also selling out shows at Madison Square Gardens. I think maybe that's fair. But celebrity hijinks and silly women thinking they deserve equality aside, let's go ahead and look at perhaps the biggest claim against Amy Schumer, and something that I can speak to as a comedian myself, the accusation that Amy steals jokes.
The same couldn't be said about her next controversy, which began on January 19th, 2016, when comedian Wendy Liebman posted a tweet accusing Amy Schumer of stealing one of her jokes, stating,
Whoa, the Internet Anarchist. Hang on, why does that sound familiar?
Hi everyone, recently a friend of mine, Jimmy Bunker.
Oh yeah, this guy, Mr. Snowflake, did a video on how the Internet Anarchist plagiarizes other people's videos. Okay, so I guess we'll skip that one. Suffice it to say that Amy Schumer has been accused from multiple sources of stealing jokes. And that is something, as a comedian, that I really cannot defend. But is it true? Let's just take a look at some of her jokes. So this is a video by The Tangerine Show. It's just a compilation of all the examples of her stealing jokes. So I'm just going to play a few here, and I encourage you to go check out this entire video to see for yourself.
So I get why poor people are fat. But Oprah, you're a billionaire. You have enough money to pay a man to stand there and literally slap shit out of your hand before you put it in your mouth. You could hire a full-time food slapper.
Slap Chef.
With Slap Chef.
With Slap Chef.
Slap Chef? What's that?
It's a new weight loss program that takes decision-making out of the equation.
How does it work?
First, one of Slap Chef's world-class chefs makes you one of their signature dishes. Then, before you can say Slap Chef, they knock it out of your stupid mouth. Slap Chef.
You're so rich, you could pay someone to exercise you. You could just lay there like a baby with cerebral palsy and have people move your legs. Oh, hey, oh, hey.
You've tried Slap Chef, but that just left you hungry and with a searing headache. And those other weight loss programs are exhausting.
Can't I just do nothing?
What if I told you you could with Sleep Gym?
I'd say sign me up. But what's Sleep Gym?
Sleep Gym is a workout program where we do all the work.
Huh? Are you from Sleep Gym?
After we induce you into a coma, it's off to the gym. As the Sleep Gym trainers take your body through strenuous workouts.
Okay, the reason that I chose this one to look at first is that I absolutely love Kathleen Madigan, and I love this joke of hers. And I was curious to see if Amy had actually stolen the joke. Well, this one is a little bit subjective. I mean, sure, are they very similar? Is the premise and the punchline very similar? Yes. Is it the same joke? Not really. But this example is Macintoshes to Cortland's. In other words, it's not apples to oranges, but it's not exactly apples to apples either.
How about them apples?
So let's take a look at something that is apples to apples.
I'd like to just talk about myself now. I'm very well read, and
So I know what you guys are thinking this part of the night. You're like, Amy, wow, you're really well read.
You ever black out when you're drinking, or as I call it, time travel? Yeah.
Has anyone ever blacked out and been awake when they've come out of it? Thank you, sister. It's kind of cool because you're a time traveler. You're just like back in your body, like.
How about them apples?
Is it possible to accidentally steal someone else's work? Yes, and in fact, this much more polished video on joke theft that I found during my research, this creator does an excellent job explaining cryptomnesia, which in this context is basically forgetting a joke someone else told ages ago and mistakenly thinking it's your own joke when you tell it. In other words, it's accidental plagiarism. So could you come up with a similar premise and punchline? Yes. Could you come up with the exact premise and punchline? Potentially. Did Amy Schumer accidentally plagiarize as many jokes as she's accused of stealing? I don't know. I'd have to do a full investigation, and I really just want to be done with this video. But despite all the accusations, Amy has vehemently denied the allegations since they started. So much so that she offered to take a lie detection test to prove her innocence once and for all. And you know what? She did! Just in case you don't watch as much true crime as I do, and I'm willing to bet most people don't, polygraphs are so unreliable that most courts do not allow the test results to be submitted as evidence. Does this mean I'm not going to bother watching Amy's test results? Hell no! In this 13-minute video that Vanity Fair published on YouTube in 2022, Amy voluntarily went through a full interrogation strapped to a polygraph machine, and I've included the link.
Is your name Amy Beth Schumer?
Yes.
Have you ever taken a polygraph test before?
No.
Are you nervous for this test?
Yes.
Why?
I guess the atmosphere.
But we're going to skip to the juicy parts.
skipping.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
I think 16 years.
Would you say you're good at math?
No.
Coming up with new material is difficult. Have you ever stolen a joke?
No.
Yes, she's telling the truth.
What about an idea for a sketch?
No.
An idea for a character?
No.
Let me rephrase. Have you ever taken inspiration for a joke from somebody else?
No.
Even though my friends and family call me a human lie detector test, I honestly don't know whether she's lying here. But what I do know is that someone actually stole one of my jokes back in 2015. But I honestly think it was a case of cryptomnesia, which could be argued for Amy in this case. However, in that compilation video, there's a screenshot of a tweet by Tammy Pescatelli in response to another tweet defending Amy, saying, "I don't think she's consciously looking up your material." So Tammy responds, she didn't have to look it up. Everything she has used was from the, quote, era she opened for all of us. Hi again. You've probably noticed up until this point that I have maintained a relatively fair and balanced view on this. And that's because I still believe in that whole innocent until proven guilty thing. Let me tell you something. If I had the honor to not only go on tour with Kathleen Madigan and open for her, my eyes would be glued to the stage the entire time she's up there because I would want to learn from her. Not copy her, but use her as an inspiration and someone who is a veteran in my field and knows what she's doing and is frankly really f***ing funny. In the words of another comedy legend, my point is this. Amy would have heard these jokes over and over again while on tour with these ladies, so it's much less likely that this is a case of accidental plagiarism.
Get on with it!
I've never been paid $11 million for a comedy show.
Yes, stupid!
I think the most I've ever been paid was $200, so I really can't speak to what she's worth, except for the fact that I do believe that women should get paid as much as men if they are equally qualified. I can't believe I'm saying that in 2026, but I am. Given the evidence that we have here, which is example after example of jokes very similar to the ones told by comedians she admires and has worked with and opened for, plus an unreliable polygraph test featured in a video clearly published for the sole reason of redeeming her drowning reputation, which they were not taking very seriously, by the way. Well, I'd probably say I'm not an attorney, and this entire video is for entertainment purposes only, and I probably should have said that at the beginning.
I do not recall I need an attorney.
Damn it, Madigan, I should have listened to you. All jokes aside, or not jokes aside, because we're going to get into her jokes. So I guess all of that's to say, it's really difficult to make an argument one way or the other here. And it's also nearly impossible to find all of these tweets from years ago. But I did find this article from Entertainment News that was published in January of 2016 that features an apology from Tammy Pescatelli. And she says, "I went too far." She also agreed that Amy had every right to be mad and that the parallel thinking between both their jokes and skits does happen in the industry. But does it, though? That many times?
Yes, Lana, I'm going with coincidence.
However, there's simply not enough evidence to prove whether Amy Schumer stole her material from other comedians. So I really can't be a judge here. But what I can be a judge of is her comedy.
I am 10 minutes and 19 seconds into the leather special. And so far, this is...
Let me put this delicately.
In my seat of judgment on Amy Schumer's comedy, someone who's never been paid $1 million, let alone $11 million for a Netflix special, I can't safely ascertain whether Amy stole all of her jokes or most of her jokes. What I can say is, at least from the two specials that I've watched, especially the infamous Leather special, Amy's comedy is unoriginal. She is way too aware of herself, meaning she's so aware that she's telling a joke that it completely distracts you from the humor of the joke. And it's like the entire time she's on stage, she's completely aware that she's on stage, and that is not what you want in a comedy show. You want the comedian up there like they belong up there. That's their home. They are very comfortable on stage. And I'm not saying she's awkward on stage. Well, yeah, I'm saying she's awkward on stage. There's so many moments in that Leather special where she bumbles from like one bit to another. She's constantly begging for the audience to take her side.
Thank you, sister.
So as a comedian, you want the audience to be on your side the entire time. And if you're good at it, you get them on your side immediately. At no point in that show was I on Amy's side. There were a few moments when I chuckled or laughed out loud, and both of those moments were from stolen jokes. Also, all of the joking about getting blackout drunk, I can't really speak to this as someone who used to drink that much, although I have never gotten blackout drunk as many times as Amy Schumer has, at least as she claims she has on stage or in her sketch comedy. The sketch comedy is a whole other thing, and her movies. I was gonna kind of go into Trainwreck, but it's been a while since I've seen that. So if you want me to do a separate review on Trainwreck, leave me a comment.
Jake, that reminds me.
Also, please subscribe. But as someone who doesn't drink anymore, I just can't get behind that kind of humor. You know, getting so drunk that you don't remember what you did. Not to judge, because obviously I've been there, but I just don't find any humor in it. And if she wasn't joking about getting blackout drunk, it was jokes about her p***. Either we're spelunking in her p***, or she's figuring out the best way to clean her p***.
Eating demonstrations, you know, just lots of p*** in this one. She could be funny, but she's too self-aware, I guess, is the overall assessment so far.
I think Amy Schumer could be funny. Now, as I mentioned earlier, or if I didn't mention it earlier, I cut it out because this video is getting way too long. I think you're either born funny or you're not. I mean, I know that's a very simplistic way of putting it, but you just got it or you don't. Whether you can manage yourself on stage and get the audience on your side and be completely comfortable and just tell jokes with ease, that takes skill and practice and years of experience. On the surface, I can see why people hate Amy Schumer. I mean, first of all, she was born to privilege, so privilege and comedy usually don't go hand in hand.
Get on with it!
Anyway, it seems like she worked her way up by stealing jokes from other comedians, allegedly, and then she demanded more money because she's a woman when she really didn't deserve it. I can also understand people looking at her like she's some sort of monster when she's rude to fans or people in public, but I would hope, and please hold me to this, if I ever become as famous as Amy Schumer and or as wealthy, I would hope A, that my fans would respect my privacy and respect the fact that, you know, I just want to go to the grocery store maybe and not get mobbed. There's a reason when you hear the word paparazzi, you don't get a warm and fuzzy feeling inside. But at the same time, you know, I would hope that I'm not a jerk about it. There's so many things that come with being a celebrity, I suppose. I can't really speak to that. But what I can be a judge of is her comedy. I honestly think that if Amy collaborated with someone who was super original and maybe fresh and no one's heard of, and then that way no one can accuse her of stealing jokes, I do think that she has an ability to act. Comedic acting is not easy. I don't particularly love it on stage, and she does a lot of like sound effects and stuff in the Leather special that I'm just like, meh. I wasn't rolling on the floor with laughter, you know, but someone like Kathleen Madigan, I remember her jokes. I know that if I'm ever arrested, I need to say to the officer, I do not recall, and I need an attorney. Do I think all of this evidence or case against Amy is enough to hate her? No. But I do think that we as humans, especially in this day and age, when we are chronically online, our brains are constantly bombarded with information and opinions. And someone like Amy Schumer, who has videos upon videos compiled with evidence that she either stole a joke or took a lot of liberties with it, you know, it's easy to hate someone like that. And you sprinkle on a few incidents in public with some fans that didn't go so well, and voila, you have an easy villain. Is it deserved? Let me know in the comments. And let me know who you think people love to hate next, or something like that. I'm thinking Bo Nix. Go Broncos, they're gonna win the Super Bowl. Yep, big take. That's my take. I'm sticking with it.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I wasn't rolling on the laughter